Hi everyone, so today we're going to do this card, which is a bit different, but I was sent some dies from In Love Arts, and one of the ones that I chose were these baseball dies, and they are actually supposed to be baseball, but I thought let's turn them into tennis balls because they are quite similar. So that's what I've done. So this isn't a normal, it's a flat card, it will post really nice and easily, but when you open it up, the front opens up like it's sort of like an exploding front kind of thing. And then you've got inside, you've got space in there to write. And this all then shuts back down again like that. It folds up in a sort of certain way. You have to kind of be careful which way you layer it up. Yeah, and it will fit in an envelope for a 5x7 card. So as I said, these three dies here are all from In Love Art Shop. These are baseball dies. So if you use my code ICEDImages, all in one word, you'll get yourself 20% off your order. This Happy Birthday is also from In Love Art Shop, but it was part of a 3-tier birthday cake die set. But I just thought it was really cute, so I thought I'd use it on here. And these papers are from Dovecraft, but they're not available anymore because they're very old. So yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, so for this card, you're going to need a base piece that is 6 inches by 7.5. So on the short side, you want to score at 1/2 inch and at 5.5. And then you want to turn it round so you're scoring on the long edge, and along the long edge, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. That is all the scoring you need to do. And then we're just going to go ahead and fold and burnish our score lines. And then what we're going to do is on all of these tabs, we're just going to cut them, but we're going to cut them so that they are really quite, acute tabs. You can always trim them down a bit later on if you need to cut further. But we're just going to go ahead and cut all of these. So you should end up with that. Okay, so now what you want to do is grab a piece of card that is 5x7. So again, this is base card. And on this, we're going to cut this down. But before we do that, I just need to do some lines on it. So I'm going to grab my ruler. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut from this top left corner to the bottom right. But before we do that, we just want to find out where the other side would be. So we're just going to make a little line like that. And then I'm going to then draw a line. So I'm going to place my ruler so it's the other way around. I've just had to turn my card just so that then I can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to draw down here temporarily. Okay, so you can't see my pencil lines probably because I'm trying to do it nice and faint. Don't know if you can see that. So you can see my pencil line that I've drawn. So this is going from the top right to the bottom left. But I've come and I've kind of stopped around the halfway mark. And I know it's halfway because of where I've put my ruler for the other way around. So now we can go ahead and we can cut this out. So we want to take our ruler, cut from the top left to the bottom right. If you want to mirror this and do it the way around, you can, but I prefer it this way. So we're going to cut all the way down here, like that. Piece here we've cut, we can move it out of the way, and then we just need to cut down this line here. So you should end up with that, hopefully. Just going to try and put it all back together again, so then you can kind of see what we've done. So now what you want to do is grab yourself a piece of pattern paper. I'm not going to use any mats, I'm just going to use pattern. And this measures 4.5 by 6.5 inches. So let's just move these out of the way. And so on this piece of card, you're going to do the same as you did for the front, the 5x7 piece. We're going to cut it from the top left to the bottom right, and then from the top right down, but only partially. So because I don't want to get any pencil lines on the front, I'm going to turn it over. So I'm just going to draw on the back here because it doesn't really matter about it being on the back. And obviously I need to mirror what I would do on the front. So I'm now going to draw from the top right hand corner to the bottom left hand corner. And then I'm going to turn my card and I'm going to draw from the top right, top left to the bottom right, but stop as soon as I get to the line going, the one I've just drawn. Hopefully you can see my pencil line. Got one going there and then one there. These papers are from a very old paper pad from Dovecraft. I will put the name of it up on the screen. I think it was called Game On, but I'll put it up on the screen anyway. So yes, we're going to go ahead now and I'm going to cut this. If you are not sticking this down using glue, then I would advise to put your tape on now before you go ahead and cut it, because that way you are not going to end up having to sort out little triangular pieces. Okay, so then these should fit on here with a nice border. So you can go ahead now and stick all of these 3 pieces down. Okay, so once you've stuck all these pieces down, we're just going to bring this piece back in again, and in the middle here I've just cut out a matte piece that is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 and a white piece that's 4 1/2 by 6 1/2. I'm just going to go ahead now and just stick that in the middle there. Okay, so you should end up with that. So now we can go ahead and start putting things together. So you can use either red tape or wet glue. I'm going to go wet glue just so I can get positioning right. And on this tab here on this side, I'm going to go ahead and add some glue on here. Then we're going to grab this piece here. I'm just going to fold this tab over and go ahead and stick this onto here. And you want to make sure that cut edge lines up with the cut edge along the top and the side, the bottom and the side. And as you can see, my tab, you can see the tab a little bit. So what I'm going to do is when this is dry, I'm going to go back in and just snip that so it fits. So then you don't see that tab. So as you can see, it's just sticking out a little bit there. So I'm just going to go back in with a pair of scissors and just carefully snip that away. And then we're going to bring this tab down. Now hopefully this should be okay here and here. So I'm going to go ahead and take some glue again. Again, you could use red tape. I'm going to add some glue onto this tab here. And then we're going to take the top one. And I'm just going to bring it in from the top like that. And then bring it down. And we just want to make sure it kind of all lines up nicely. You might have a little bit of overlap, but hopefully not. Obviously your pattern won't completely follow on because you've got the gap, but that's fine. You're going to have things over the top of it. As long as it kind of almost does, it kind of keeps that look. And then this tab here, it looks like I'm going to need to cut it a little bit more. So I'm just going to go in quickly before we stick it down and cut a little tiny bit off. And then we're going to fold that, and the same at the bottom here. Let's just make this a little bit more. Okay, so then we go ahead and put some glue on this tab here. And then we're going to take this, and again, just going to bring this in and stick it in. And you can kind of wiggle it around, line it up that it fits in with the other 2 pieces and doesn't overlap. If you've got any little bits like this bit here that's sort of sticking out a little bit, you can just go in and trim that off after your glue has dried. And this is another reason why it's good to use wet glue for this, because it gives you a little bit of time to kind of wiggle it around and get it in the right place. So I'm just going to take off that tiny little bit there. It's really minuscule. And I've noticed that on the side here, it is overlapping a little bit, but I don't mind that. I'd rather it do that at the back and be perfect on the front than be not quite, overlapping and not quite right on the front. So that is that one done. And then we need to go ahead and decorate. So I've cut out, so this is actually a baseball set. This isn't, this is from, so this one here is actually from the birthday, 3-tier birthday cake die set, and I really like it. When I first saw it, I thought, oh, it looks a bit too tiny. it's going to be really fiddly, but I really like the font on it. I like the way it turned out. So I've actually used that happy birthday from the 3-tier birthday cake die set, and I've matched it up with the baseball. So this is what it's sort of supposed to look like. It's supposed to have like, you know, white and red, typical baseball. But I was thinking, you know what, they look a bit like tennis balls to me as well. You can make them into tennis balls. Hence why we've got tennis ball themed paper. So this is where we end up just working out what we want to put where. So I was thinking, and again with this, you kind of want to make it so it's kind of stuck on the different thingies, the different sides. So this one might be stuck on here, that one might be stuck on here, that one might be stuck on the top one, and just sort of work it out as best you can. Okay, so I can't really decide which is the best way of laying these out, but we're just going to go with that. I actually laid them out quite nicely, that I liked how I'd done it, and now I can't remember what I did. So we're just going to go with that anyway. So I'm just going to weight down my different sections so I can stick them down without too much trouble. Okay, so this one is going to stick just on here. Okay, so there we have it. So you're going to end up putting that down like that, and then you need to bring this one in first, and then it all closes up together. Now, those of you who are eagle-eyed would have spotted on the back of here there was some writing, and that's because I cut this out of a swatch pad from Paper Mill Direct that I had from years ago, and so it had writing on the back of it, which I didn't realise when I cut it out. So I've just cut a little circle of coloured, which actually looks fine on there. I don't have a problem with that. So that's how it goes together, and then we just need to go ahead and put our happy birthday over the top. Okay, so this is the end result. So if you bring that one in there, just snick that in there. You kind of have to do a bit of a, you know, you do boxes. You kind of have to lay them up a little bit. That also needs to go under. There we go, like that. So there is the finished card. So I'm quite pleased with the way it's turned out. I wouldn't normally do tennis or sport themed cards, but you never know when you're going to need one. So there you go, and then it obviously opens up, and you've got space inside to write. It stands up nicely on your desk, it stands up like that, and obviously you can have it, you know, from the front. It kind of opens up, but if you burnish your folds a bit more or use thinner card, then it will stand up a bit more like that. So it's not quite, so from the front it looks like that. So you can just sort of see different lines, but I just think it's quite a different way of doing it, and you could do anything. You could literally put anything on the front of here. It doesn't have to be sport related, but I just quite like the slashed front. I just think it's just a bit interesting. So yeah, so there you go. So I hope you liked it. Don't forget to go and check out In Love Arts. Use my code ICEDImages, which will get you 20% off your order. These baseball dies are on there. This is on there, and that's part of a 3-tier birthday cake set, and it comes with a happy birthday as well. And then these papers were from Dovecraft, but I don't think they're available anymore. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss a video, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!